Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from the Govardhan Echo Village, this is our Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast. Hello, I'm your host, Raghunath, with co-host Kaustubha Das.
Hello.
And we are reading from the sacred, ancient Vedic literature, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we are cruising right along today. How are you, Prabhu?
I'm feeling good.
We are here with about, what's our numbers for our live? We are about 58 people live on Zoom from around the world who study with us on a regular basis, and about 60 students from our training going on in Maharashtra. It's like a state in India. Bombay is from Maharashtra. They speak a whole, there's like 700 languages they speak in India.
And they speak Marathi here.
They speak Marathi.
And probably others as well.
The state language is Hindi. The mother language is Sanskrit. But a lot of languages and dialects.
How many of them do you know?
I know Hindi. Mi tori Hindi bote hai.
Okay.
That's what I got.
Pretty good.
That's about all I got.
Aditi, how was that?
Yeah, where's our Indian?
It was good. It was tori correct.
Does that mean little correct?
Little,
Yeah.
Very slightly correct?
Tori correct. But the beautiful thing about the book we're studying, it teaches you to understand that no one owns truth. No culture owns God. Krishna is not a Hindu God. Brahman is not a Hindu realization of divinity. That there is one divine being. There is one divine energy. And that is for everybody. And different cultures have different messengers who teach this. So the whole idea is this Sanatan Dharma. There's an eternal function of the soul. It's not a Hindu soul, a Jewish soul, etc. It is that we are all spiritual souls. We just forgot what we are. And real spiritual life means just trying to remember what we had forgot from our identification with the material body. And the sacred literature of India just penetrates through all of this. And that's why we love it, especially this book, the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we started all over. We've been reading through, it's 18,000 verses, but January 1st, we started from the beginning. We made this a podcast, and now it's launching with full force. I'm excited. And we are going through these verses one by one. We're in the first canto, chapter 1, text 12, Mara. And we're just going to dive right in. We start with this mantra, a prayer to the Bhagavatam itself.
Nam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayet.
Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead, Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author.
Nastaparesha Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Omagana Tamurandasya Yananjana Salakaya Shakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
We need a reminder to mute the mics out there.
You got to mute the mics out there, people, or you wreck it for everybody.
Okay.
We were joking before the show that I was having a bad day because I had noticed in a photo, and perhaps you may notice in a photo of yourself, that you're not. You ever have this thing where you think you're actually more attractive than you actually are?
I've heard that's a. I hear men do that.
Narcissism. I was like, this is how I actually look. Someone said, Janeshwar sent me a photo and I blowed it up. I blowed it up.
You did blow it up in the
I
photo.
blew it up big and I was like, man, that is my head. That's my size of it's like a gigantic meatball. A meatball with big wooden earrings. It looked like big Mr. Clean the drag queen. That's how I felt when I saw that picture. And it's been bothering me. And it's stupid. And I'm not the body. I get it. And I obviously don't get it. Or else I wouldn't be. You know how you're actually, you don't even know, but you're disturbed about something. And you have to actually think, why are you upset? I'm like, I think. And I'm thinking, that's what it is. It's that damn photo, Janeshwar. He's like, what's wrong with it, Prabhu? It's very beautiful. It's a nice photo.
Have you worked it out yet?
Well, the material world has a way of chopping and pruning and snipping away at your ego. Now, if you don't surrender that ego and connect with the divinity, what happens is the material world just takes that thing away from you. Just chops it all away. All that stuff you were proud of, all the stuff you thought you were, your identity, your career, your home, your hair, whatever it is, material world just takes it right away from you. Right? Men freak out when they lose their hair. Google hair loss. Hair loss remedy for men. It's like billions of hits. How do I fix this? People do that. Men do all types of crazy things. They grow their hair out and comb it over. Everybody knows what's going on. And the guy thinks, no one knows, no one knows, no one knows. It's so sad. And what makes matters worse, nature's cruel reality, cruel joke is, we're taking the hair away from your head. We're going to take that hair and place it in other weird places on your body where it never grew before. My wife is always saying things like, hey man, you got a lot of hair on the back of your arms. It was never there before. It's coming out of our ears. It's like a chimpanzee. That's the material world. It's a cruel, cruel place. So I'm a little bit of pain.
Just mine.
It's not me. It's not me. And that's, thank God for the Bhagavatam, or I'd be really messed up right now. Let's read.
Text number
Text
12.
number 12. How are you?
I'm just watching what you're going through here. Feeling,
I mean, I'm
feeling
not
for
going
you.
through it.
Feeling for you.
You ever get upset? You just got a thing in the back of your mind.
You got to think it out.
Bothersome. Just a little bit. You don't even know why, but it's just there, tapping you. You're getting old and your head's getting fatter. So, just that. All blessings upon you, O Sutta Goswami. You know for what purpose the personality of Godhead appeared in the womb of Devaki as the son of Vasudeva. Now, the other morning in our Sangha, not this Sangha, but in class here, which if you follow me on Instagram, Raghunath Yogi, I've been posting our morning Sanghas live on what's it called? Instagram Live. That's what it's called. And so we were telling about Devaki, who was Krishna's mother, wasn't just an ordinary woman. She was an advanced yogini. And we were saying how yogis have an intention when they practice. And some of them traditionally they want some mystic city. And they find teachers who know how to give siddhis. And they practice, a siddhi is a mystical perfection. Some of it's walking on water, levitating, making things manifest in their hands. What are the 8 siddhis? You got this?
No.
Prapti
When it's
siddhi.
becoming smaller than this, Prapti siddhi is to
You get
make
stuff
anything appear.
in your hands.
Take it from somewhere else and you can make it appear where you are.
Anima siddhi.
Become very small, very light.
I think you can be light.
Yeah.
Light. Lagima siddhi. You know that one? No. Okay. Sorry.
Maybe DT knows from just the word.
DTD Lagima. Well, do you know what Lagima siddhi is, Janeshwar? Come on. Lighter than the light?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, there's a lot of cities out there.
Tar, you know.
It's nectar of ocean.
Anyway, there's 8 of them.
Anyway, there's 8 major ones and many, many subsidies. And so the yogis want this, some type of perfection. Now, Devaki's, you know what Devaki wanted? She wanted, in a previous life, I want to give birth to Lord Vishnu. I want to give birth to Lord Vishnu. That was her intention before she practices yoga. Did anybody ever have that intention? Make that intention before you start your yoga practice. When the yoga teacher says, okay, let's all set an intention today. Give birth to Vishnu, give birth to Vishnu, give birth to Vishnu. That was her focused intention. She was a great mystic. And then in her next life, she took birth as Devaki and she gave birth to Lord Vishnu. So, just thought that was an interesting side note. Oh, Sutta Goswami, we are eager to learn about the personality of Godhead and his many incarnations. Please explain to us those teachings imparted by previous masters. Another word for master is acharya. For one is uplifted both by speaking them and by hearing them. This is the method. The first 2 methods of attaining bhakti is you speak about it and you listen to it. Shravanam Kirtanam. So right now I'm reading it. I'm hearing it as I'm reading it, right? You're hearing it, right? Then Kaustubha says something, I'm listening, he's speaking. And this is the process. We go back and forth like this. And we were saying yesterday, it's an eternal conversation. People are always asking, well, what about this? And what about this? That Bhagavatam is eternal. It's going on in the future. And it's been going on even before these books were penned. Kaustubha, jump in whenever you want. Please.
Okay.
Please jump in.
Well, maybe just a quick little background for people that are
Please.
tuning in.
Yeah.
That this book has begun with the gathering of sages in the forest of Naimisharanya. They were concerned that the Kali Yuga, the dark age, is coming, where people have less ability to practice spiritual life. They were trying to do something, some type of ritual, some type of something to benefit the people of the future, benefit their spiritual lives. And they felt they weren't quite getting there. So then they turned to one sage amongst them named Sutta. And they said, because you were such a good disciple, because you're such a good yogi, because you're so humble, because you served your guru so well, you've been blessed to understand, to make sense of it all. Because the teachings of yoga and philosophy are so vast, it's hard to understand what's most important, but we trust that you do understand. So please present the essence to that. And the last verse that we read just before we start today was, take the essence of that and show us how people can find complete satisfaction of the self. How can we actually become truly happy? Take all that yogic literature and boil it down for us so that we can get to that essence. And now they're saying, and also, and by their asking this question, it seems that they kind of know part of the answer. Because they say also, please tell us about Krishna and his incarnations. We want to hear about those, because by hearing about those, we benefit. And so that's what they're saying now.
This is an interesting point, this concept of yayatma supersidity, self-satisfied. There's this concept that we have, and it's perpetuated by advertising, is you have to go out to become satisfied. You have to purchase something to get satisfied. And not just purchase this, because people who purchase this have also purchased these. And they're like selling us bundles of things to make us happy. And the old concept is happiness comes by me going out there, me visiting this place, this exotic adventure, or this vacation, or this yoga retreat, whatever it be. But the idea is that the happiness is contained within. You just have to figure out how to chisel away at it. And this is the whole process. How can I become satisfied with nothing?
There's a very interesting analogy for that.
Please tell me.
Okay. And that is of the musk deer, right? That there's a type of deer that can be found in mountainous areas of Asia, including the Himalaya mountains. So the yogis would see these deer. And it's like a little kind of deer that's got some tusk.
Yeah.
But what it's especially known for is this aroma that it can release.
During mating season.
I assume. This smell of musk is so enchanting that it's become very expensive, and they use it to make perfume and so on.
It's actually, I think, illegal.
Now it's illegal because they're killing all the deer for it. But
I had musk. for the first time last year, real musk. Someone gave me
You broke
19.
the law.
No, it was.
You're admitting it on air.
it was musk from 1924
When it was legal.
when it was legal.
Okay.
Here.
I know, you got it.
I
From
got it.
Indrajuna
I got
Swami,
it from
right?
Indrajuna Swami. He
Amazing,
goes,
yeah.
you ever have real musk?
He's an amazing man himself. Like, he's always getting these very special things.
Very
you know?
special things.
Yeah.
And what's the other one? A guru,
A guru.
which is called oud. Ever have smell oud? It's like a fungus of a tree. Want to wiki me some oud? It's a fungus of a tree that grows on a particular tree in a swamp. All the conditions have to be right. And when you get this stuff, it is like breathtaking. And all this other stuff we're using is all chemical manufacturers. All the perfumes we're buying raw. These are the originals of all perfumes. You know.
Oud. How do you spell it? You got it? There you go.
Well, the Indians call it aguru, but I don't know. Maybe the Persians call it oud. Oh, agar wood is the same. Fragrant resinous wood used in incense, perfume, and small carvings. It is formed in the heartwood of the Aquilara trees when they become infected with a type of mold. Prior to infection, the heartwood is odorless, relatively light and pale colored. However, as the infection progresses, the tree produces a dark aromatic resin called agar. Not to be confused with the algae-derived vegan Jello agar.
Yes, that happens commonly.
It's a common misconfusion. As well, okay. Or it's also called oud.
Okay. So, oud is one thing. Musk is another.
There's a little detour, but sort of interesting.
It was.
I mean, come on, we're on to yoga. We all burn incense. It's interesting to hear where it's from.
It is.
Thank you, Mary.
So in any case, this musk deer, it will smell that aroma coming from itself, but not understand that it's coming from itself. So it begins to search for it. And
it's coming from itself and it's searching for it.
Yeah, smelling this, it's smelling the aroma.
It's smelling
but it doesn't,
himself.
or himself, but it doesn't know where it's coming from. So it starts to search for it, and it's searching more and more, but it still can't find where it's coming from. And then it starts to run through the forest. It's said that this deer will run through the forest until it collapses from exhaustion, not realizing all along that the aroma was coming from within its own self. And so what the yogis say is that we are like these deer, that we are searching for happiness. We're searching for it here. We're searching for it there. As you were saying, we're searching it for through external things. We think we'll find it somewhere else, not realizing that it's actually the true nature of the soul, that it's in us that we have to find it. It's only when the mind becomes peaceful, when the mind is, the word that they use in Bhagavad Gita, samatvam, it's even-mindedness, that whether it's hot or cold, whether people are honoring us or dishonoring us, whatever the external circumstances are, whether I have this or I don't have it, my mind is peaceful and I can go within. And then I can actually come in touch with the Atma supersidity, that happiness which is based on the Atma or the soul, its true nature.
See, it's like I'm looking at the Italians right now. When we hear about Italy, Americans hear about Italy, we're like, we all want to go to Italy. Yeah, we all want to go. And you know what the Italians are thinking? We all want to go to New York. We all want to go to New York. It's like the same thing. I want to go there. They want to go here. It's right?
Grass is
But
always greener.
the problem is we're just chasing our mind around. Wherever I go, my mind's just there with me. Shall we continue?
We shall.
Okay. Text 14. So one is uplifted. We left off with one is uplifted both by the speaking of them and the hearing of them.
Of the pastimes of Krishna.
Living beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death can be freed immediately by even unconsciously chanting the holy name of Krishna. Krishna's name, which is feared by fear personified. I like that. Can I read it again?
Yes.
Living beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death.
Who does that include?
Me.
Me too.
Like, we don't even think about our life like that, but we are entangled in a complicated mesh of birth and death. Yeah. I mean, sometimes when they say things like that, our vision of ourselves generally is just, well, no, I'm not. You know, funny stories. When I first moved, I didn't even move into an ashram. I just wanted to stay overnight in an ashram when I was younger. I just wanted to feel what it would be like. I kid you not. I was with Zach from Rage Against the Machine, who was my buddy when we were 17 or something. And I said, I want to stay in an ashram. We were at his mother's house. I said, I want to stay in an ashram. Will you drive me to that ashram in Laguna Beach? I went to the ashram in Laguna Beach. I knocked on the door. I said, can I stay overnight here?
The Hare Krishna temple,
Hare
or the
Krishna
other?
temple.
Because there's another
Hare
Laguna
Krishna
Beach
temple.
temple, right?
There was a Kali temple.
Kali
too.
temple, yeah.
It wasn't the Kali temple.
Okay.
And I had no idea what I was even getting into. And there was another brand spanking new monk, total fanatic. You might even know. He's still around.
Okay.
And I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. I slept overnight. And the guy looked at me in the eyes. I didn't even believe in any of this stuff. I wasn't even sure. He looked at me, he goes, Dr. Ray, you've given your entire life. No, he goes, he goes, you've given thousands of lifetimes to Maya. Just give this one life to Krishna. Makes sense now, doesn't it? I was like, in my brain, I was like, you're insane.
This life is all I've got.
I've only got one life. What do you mean I've given thousands of life? And what if this is the only life I got? I'm going to get this one life so I can live in a room with you? That's what I thought when he said that.
And now?
And now I'm telling you, just give this one life. So, I mean, if you just talk to anybody off the street, like I was, like right off the street, that sounds crazy, right? And I just read that, and, we'll just read it again from the like, this sounds crazy point of view. Living beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death. That makes no sense. Well, check this out. If that's too big of a time scale to look at it at people were just caught in the complicated world of now. It's a pretty complicated world. Oh, okay. The executive producers are pushing. They're trying to edge me, give me hand signals, and then finally they just pushed me and said, "Move over." Okay. It's like, why the heck is Mara pushing my knee? There we go. Lost my train.
Give this one life.
Give this one life. Anyway, the idea is that, come on, this life is complicated as it is. You know
meshes,
it.
yeah,
Even
meshes.
if you don't believe in your next life, this life is complicated, isn't it? It's like a maze, and we make the same silly mistakes again and again. Has anybody made the same stupid mistake more than once? And has anybody gone to that freezer at night?
What's in that freezer?
Pulled out that half gallon of, you know what? You weren't even hungry. Everyone's, yeah.
I think the Bhagavatam was indicating even more than that. Though.
Even more than overeating or down in a jar of peanut butter. It's talking about birth and death and birth and death and birth and death. But these circles, these concentric circles, they start with small. Sometimes I make the same, sometimes meal after meal I'll overeat, or sometimes week after week, or sometimes girlfriend or boyfriend after boyfriend, I make a bad choice, right? But these circles get bigger and bigger. And then ultimately it goes bigger in your next lifetime as well. We make bad choices lifetime after lifetime. Yoga, if practiced, here's an interesting way to look at it. From stimulus, and wherever there's stimulus, there's response, right? Stimulus, response. And in that space between stimulus and response, I made a mistake. Between stimulus and response, there's a little space.
Yeah, that's
right?
what I said.
Okay, that's what I said? Okay. Between stimulus and response, there's a little space. What we put in that space creates our whole destiny. Right?
Okay.
So if we practice yoga right, we raise our whole being to sattva, or goodness. We haven't really talked about that yet in the show, but all the practice of pranayama, of yoga asanas, of breathing, of meditation, of chanting japa, these all bring the consciousness to sattva. And what it does, it opens up the space between stimulus and response.
Because in sattva you can reason. You're
reason.
not confused.
In tamas, suppose you're addicted. Suppose you're addicted to heroin, and heroin's wrecked your life. And someone says, "Hey man, you want some heroin?" You're like, "Yes, I do." And even if the guy says, hey, are you sure? Because last time you took heroin, your wife left, your kids were taken away, you lost your job, ended up in the streets. You still want heroin? Yes. That's called addiction. When there's addiction, when we're in tamas, there is no space between stimulus and response. So whatever guna we were born in, because we have a dominant guna controlling us and we contribute to, tamas leaves us no space. Addiction means no space between stimulus and response. Yoga means expanding a little bit more free will. So when stimulus comes, you want heroin? Thought. No, lost family last time. Ended up in prison, 6 months in rehab. No, I don't want it. Right? So that's what detox is. It's creating yourself a separation from the thing you were entangled with, enmeshed with, creating some separation so it doesn't have such a tight grip on you anymore. And from there, we can make better choices. So yeah, these circles go on and we make these poor choices again and again until we understand yoga. Because yoga offers this access point out of that circle of poor choices. What do you think about that?
I really
what do you think about that, Kaustubha?
I really like it. I think that might be a takeaway from today.
Okay.
This
my
space.
bracelet here. It says, what do you think about that, Kaustubha? I say it at least once a show, so someone made me a bracelet of it.
And there's another interesting thing about this text that we just read. And it's particularly, I think, of interest to people that are interested in bhakti yoga, interested in kirtan. It mentions that living beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death can be freed immediately by even unconsciously chanting the holy name of Krishna.
I actually wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Why unconsciously? Like, if I'm like, like in America, there's a hotel called the Ramada Inn. So I want to stay at the Ramada Inn. I get some benefit for that?
It said that you do. In the yogic text, it says that you do. But this is, you see, here in this text, again, where the author of all the yogic literature, all the Vedic literature, is right from the beginning trying to set everything very straight and very clear.
Good time to buy stock in Ramada Inn right now. Okay? Prices are going up.
Now I lost my train of thought. Thank
Sorry
you.
about that. I thought it was pretty funny. No one really reacted. I should have just shut up.
But right from the beginning, he's trying to establish clearly what we should practice in this age, what's going to be most beneficial. And right here, he's starting by pointing out that these sages made this statement that by chanting the name of Krishna, we can become freed from the complicated meshes of birth and death. And so within this Bhagavatam, there's going to be a lot said about chanting the names, that in this age, that there's certain potent conductors of spiritual energy, or sources of spiritual energy, including the name. Generally, it's said there's these four important ones: the name, the form, the pastimes, and the qualities of Krishna, or the divine.
Okay, maybe let's write that down for the people here on the board. Yeah. We haven't written down stuff on the message board. Now that we're podcasts, I feel like we're too good for these guys, but I'm going to write this down. Name.
Form.
Maybe we just need a scribe out there. Name.
Lindsay,
Lindsay, you're the scribe. Lindsay, you're the scribe. Name,
form, qualities, and pastimes. And the Bhagavatam is going to lay that all out, and especially the pastimes of Krishna are going to be laid out in great detail here. But those are sources of meditation that they're powerful. The idea is that they're not material, that they're spiritual by nature. So that when they enter in through the ear, they penetrate into the mind, they purify it, they uplift it. And unconsciously, because even if you don't know it, it's effective. And there's going to be great saints will write about the science of these names. And they'll say that if you know that it's potent, but you're approaching it for a materialistic purpose, then its full spiritual potency, you're not receptive to its full spiritual potency. But if you hear it even unconsciously, you're not putting up any barrier, and you benefit still more from it.
People can argue and they'll say, well, how can that be? That's a bunch of bull. I don't buy it. It's just a sound. It's just a blah, 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 like any other sound, like a frog makes a sound or a dog makes a bark, or I'm just talking. But sounds have an effect. This morning in our class, we did this practice where We spend 1 minute, and a lot of my students watching online know this too. You spend 1 minute saying something wonderful about somebody in the room. So you have 60 people talking to their partner about, oh yeah, Mara, she's so educated. We go on.
Where was she educated?
Where was she? Oh, she was educated in a private school.
I see.
And then Kaustubha would say something back and say, oh yes, she is very educated. And he'd say something nice about someone else in the room. And then I'd say something else about something nice. We go back and forth appreciating somebody in the room. And when after we're done for a minute, how do you feel? And somebody like, I feel really good. I feel wonderful. I feel blissful. I feel my heart's open. I feel like I'm floating, because it's just sound vibration, but sound vibration channeled in appreciation, seeing the good in other people, etc. It brings the consciousness up. It's actually tangible. Whereas if I say, okay, let's do an experiment. Let's find fault with somebody in the room. Okay, well, and we just sit there and how do you feel after you gossip? No one's feeling good. You feel a little dirty, a little gross. Take a bath. That's how you feel when you gossip. It brings the consciousness way down. And even a person walking by hearing it brings it down. So there's sound vibrations that bring the consciousness low. There's sound vibrations that bring it high. And then there are these transcendental sounds.
Shabda Brahma, it's called. Spiritual sound. Sound that's not merely a vibration passing through the ether.
Lindsay, write that down. Spell it out.
Shabda, well, you can spell with the H, Shabda, Shabda Brahman, Brahman, Shabda Brahman.
Shabda Brahman. Is she writing this down? Oh, yeah. Okay, write this down.
Lindsay's on the ball.
Lindsay's on the ball. She's up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go listen to class. She's in Texas. She's a Texan. Okay, just thought I'd share that.
Text 15.
Texan 15. O Sutta, those great sages who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord can at once sanctify those who come in touch with them, whereas the waters of the Ganges can sanctify only after prolonged use.
So it's naming these powerful sources of spiritual potency. It named the name. Now it named those great sages, great souls, deeply spiritual people.
Yeah, the Ganges. Well, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What's the problem?
I'm a little hurt for the Ganges here.
So
it's almost like a put down of the Ganges.
It's not a put down of the Ganges, but it's just saying how powerful it is, the effect of spiritual people.
Who is there desiring deliverance from the vices of this age of quarrel, who is not willing to hear the virtuous glories of the Lord? His transcendental acts are magnificent and gracious, and great learned sages like Narada sing of them. Please, therefore, speak to us who are eager to hear about the adventures he performs in his various incarnations. Want to read the purport of that a little?
17?
Text 17. Every now and then there'll be a commentary on these we'll dive into, but for the most part, we're trying to read through the text, and we give a commentary, but every now and then we like to dip into the commentary. Would you like
Love
to dip?
the commentaries. The personality of Godhead is never inactive, as some less intelligent person suggests. In other words, some people believe, even it's, he says that, it sounds a little harsh, right?
What?
That less intelligent people. But actually, it's the word that Krishna uses in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, abuddhiya, that those who think I was impersonal before and have taken this personal form are abuddhiya. It's just kind of a very, it sounds blunt, but it's just,
it's the ongoing argument. God is impersonal. We are all God. The ocean is God, the sun is God, the air is God, I am God, you are God, the computer is God. It's all God. Or God has form. It's an age-old argument. The Bhagavatam settles it quite easy. What's right? Is God personal or impersonal? Bhagavatam makes it real simple. They're both right. So for us to say, no, God only has a personal form, it's not seeing the whole picture. It's a partial truth. But for someone just to say, no, God is just impersonal, that's also partial truth. Mm-hmm. So the Bhagavatam clears it right up. The argument's over.
All right, done.
It's done. For something to be absolute, they're both correct.
Okay. Thank you. You cleared it all up. We can shut down the show right now.
Okay, good night, everybody. Okay.
But when it says that less intelligent is because Krishna in the Gita says, he uses the word abhudiya, that if someone thinks that he, Krishna, previously was just impersonal energy and has taken a temporary form, it's actually just a less intelligent understanding. It's less clear discrimination. So his works are magnificent and magnanimous. His creations, both material and spiritual, are all wonderful and contain all variegatedness. They are described nicely by such liberated souls as, and now we get a list. And if you practice bhakti, these are names you should become familiar with. You should know who they are and what they've contributed. Narada, Vyasa, Valmiki, Devala, Asita. These are all of those names are like from the ancient texts themselves, like from many thousands of years ago.
So yoga teachers, aspiring yogis, these are like names, just like if you go to school in America, you know who George Washington is, you know Abraham Lincoln, who's John Adams? The second president, right? Anyway.
We kind of know
you got to know this stuff.
Yeah,
there's basics you're supposed to know if you went through elementary school. In the yoga system, there's basic names we should familiarize ourselves with. So these are great thinkers of ancient times, and then they're going to start to move up chronologically in order.
Now we're going back 5 centuries, 11 centuries. Madhva, Sri Chaitanya, Ramanuja, Vishnu Swami, Nimbarka, Sridhar Swami, Vishwanath. Now we're going like 350 years ago. Vishwanath, Baladev. And then like within the past, century and a half or something, Bhakti Vinod, Siddhanta Saraswati, and many other learned and self-realized souls. These creations, both material and spiritual, are full of opulence, beauty, and knowledge. But the spiritual realm is more magnificent due to its being full of knowledge, bliss, and eternity. So he's saying there's opulence in this world, but there's a realm beyond this, that this realm is a reflection of, that is composed of knowledge, bliss, and eternality.
The next line is nice. You want to read that?
The material creations are manifested for some time as perverted shadows. And I think like we've in our modern culture, perverted, has a certain, it means,
pervert.
Yeah, you pervert. So we can say warped. Let's say like warped.
Warped.
Yeah. Warped shadows.
Perverted shadows of the spiritual
kingdom, and can be likened to cinemas. Like we go into a cinema, what we're looking at is not exactly, we were talking about this on the first show.
Yeah, it's actually a great analogy.
Yeah.
Read that again.
Okay, let's do the whole sentence again, and we'll just remember when we say perverted, what we're talking about here. The material creations are manifested for some time as perverted shadows. Just for some time they appear as perverted shadows of the spiritual kingdom and can be likened to cinemas. So you go into a movie and something goes across that screen for a moment and then it's gone. It's a shadow of some reality, right? It's a story that reflects something in reality, but it's in one sense it's not real itself, and it passes by. They attract people of less intelligent caliber who are attracted to false things.
This concept of false means things that don't last, things not of a lasting nature. So we're interested in happiness, but we're not interested in happiness or fun that comes in. What's the Bhagavad Gita 522? Ahunam Janamante. Is that it?
Not 522, but I thought you were going to go with 216. Nasato vidite bhavo, na bhavo vidite sataha. Is that those things that are eternal or real, those things that are temporary or unreal?
I was going to go, Yehisham Sparsha Jaboga, that one.
Yehisham Sparsha Jaboga, Dukkha Yoniya Evate.
Those who are wise do not take part in the sources of misery,
yeah,
which are due to contact with material senses.
Yeah.
Such so-called pleasures have a beginning and an end.
And so a wise man does not take part in that.
Yeah.
Which goes right to the point we were discussing earlier, that external things that we think give us happiness through contact through the senses. I need to contact my senses with this object and I'll find happiness. The Gita is going to say, no, it's the exact opposite, that ultimately they're dukkha yoniya, they give birth to misery. Because even if you get it for some time,
you lose it.
If it's material, you lose it because it's temporary.
You lose it.
Yeah.
I think it was Aristotle. So there's 3 types of, the 3 reasons why materialism won't satisfy you. One is you want something and you just never get it. You see this all the time. I was a musician. So many people wanted, they wanted to be in a big band, and they just never did it. But you can take it in anywhere in the material world. It could be in the workplace. It could be whatever you want. I want it, and I never get it. That's one reason why materialism fails. Number two, you want something, you get it, but you lose it. Right? You get it, and it gets taken away
hot
from
for
you.
one record, and the second one.
First record was great. No one cares about the second record. And the third one is you want it. Thank you. Are you dressing me? You want it, you get it, but after you get it, it doesn't live up to what you thought it would be. I've wanted it so hard. I've worked so hard for it. And now, big deal.
Still not satisfied.
Still not satisfied. These are the three failures of material pursuits.
So happiness does not come through material pursuits.
Yeah.
It's just a formula. It just doesn't work that way.
The formula doesn't work. I just wanted to write that verse. Lindsay, write that verse on the board for those who are studying this. It's Yehishum Sparsha. You know what?
522.
In the Bhagavad Gita. You're going to have to Google that one up yourself there, Lindsay. Okay. That was 17, right?
Yes. $18.
18. O Sutta, please narrate to us the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Godhead's multi-incarnations. Such auspicious adventures and pastimes of the Lord, the Supreme Controller, are performed by his internal powers.
It's not something internal powers means.
What does that mean?
It's not that Krishna has external energy and internal energy. And we heard about that in the first verse of Bhagavatam. When it mentioned directly and indirectly conscious of everything. So he has internal energy. That means his eternal energy. And then there's a separated material energy that's temporary, that's always constantly shifting. And so in the previous verse, it was mentioning something about, or maybe two verses back, was saying that, or in the purport that we just read, that you can't find happiness through the external things. Here it's saying that these pastimes of Krishna, understand this, these aren't ordinary stories. Because we're going to hear about Krishna in the 10th canto. As a matter of fact, although there's 12 cantos, 18,000 verses, 12 cantos, out of the 12, the 10th canto, which describes Krishna's pastimes, is 1/4 of the entire thing.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah, so it's like, it's massive. You look at the volumes and it's like there's 4 big ones of that, at least in some of the editions. So the Bhagavatam is building up to that 10th canto, to hearing all about Krishna's pastimes. And when you hear about them, one can mistake them for, he's running around with these girls, right? He's running around and having these different adventures.
Very naughty.
And that's your favorite part. And one may say, oh, these are stories about an ordinary person. But what it's saying here is, no, these are not ordinary stories that were just composed. These are composed of Krishna's internal energy. These are eternal. These are spiritual. These are, in one sense, non-different from the divine or from God himself. That's something that you're going to have to try to stretch your mind around. That's something that we're talking about, something that's beyond our sensory perception. So if we say, I want that to conform to my limited thinking, then it's not going to fit in there. You have to try to expand the possibilities in your mind to try to grasp it.
I really feel like it's important, if we're teaching yoga in this age that we're living in right now, it's important to know this stuff. It's important to know how what we're doing now ties in to what the sages have taught. It's good to, we call it zooming out, trying to understand where this whole thing is going. Where does our asana sequence, our meditation in the big picture? And it's important to go back. And if you're learning baseball, know who Babe Ruth is. You know what I mean? If you're learning about race cars, know who
Richard Petty
is. I don't even know race cars. Okay.
Mario Andretti.
No, Mario Andretti, damn it. So if you're
going to know yoga,
you've got to know this stuff. You should be acquainted with this sacred literature, because here's the deal. Your students are going to ask you, and you got to at least understand it. You got to at least have a concept of where this is coming from. And so you can give some assistance to them. So we find, and this is what we want to do with this training here that we do in India, the Super Soul training, as well as what they want to do to go over on it. We want to raise the bar of what it means to be a yoga teacher nowadays. It was a very, very exalted thing to be a yoga teacher. Why? Because it's based on your character. It's not just based on your and your back bend. Big deal. There's people who can do back bends and are in a circus. That doesn't make them a guru, a liberated soul. We're not interested in a back bend. We're based on your character. We're based on your connection. We're based on your groundedness. We're based on your wisdom. How do you get wisdom? You hear knowledge and you apply knowledge. That's how you get it. You can't buy it. You can't buy it. I did 500-hour training. Then I did another 300-hour. Then I did an extra, what he called Yoga Alliance add-on. Now I'm certified. You're not certified. You gotta live it, or it doesn't work. I've read every book on snowboarding. Okay. Have you ever snowboarded? No. Then you're not a snowboarder.
What to speak of if you haven't read the books?
What?
Right? What to speak of if you haven't read the books on it? In other words, you're like you were saying, a yoga teacher should know who these people are.
Yeah, we have to acquaint ourselves with them. We have to apply it, and then we have to deal with our massive ego. You know what I mean? I've been in this game for about 30 years. We try to do this stuff. I'm still wrestling with this monster. And it's okay. We plow through, and slowly things change. But it's real. It's real, and it works. I will say it works. I've seen myself change, but it doesn't end. And it's not the training. Like again, it's not just hearing truth. It's applying truth to our life. And I think what we also want to try to encourage. And it's not just, I'm not saying this because students they're a mess and I'm doing pretty good. It's actually for me as well as the students is we want real transformation, and transformation comes from application, right? If we really want to transform, we got to hear the truth and we got to apply the truth. And then by nature, you just want to give that truth.
Nice. Yeah.
Learn it, live it, give it.
And then
learn it, live it, give it. What do you think of that?
Learn it, live it, give it. Learn it, live it, give it. Okay.
Tattoo time.
Maybe t-shirt.
T-shirt.
Hold on the tattoo.
We'll start with the t-shirt, and then we'll go to the tattoo. We just tattoo everything. Like everybody's got tattoos. It's not even a weird thing anymore.
I don't have one tattoo.
You don't have one tattoo?
No.
When we were young, tattoos were illegal in New York City. Isn't that weird to even think like that? Illegal. Now it's like the guy at Starbucks has a thing on his neck. When we were young, if a guy had a thing on his neck, it was like, call the police.
Definitely prison.
Yeah, skip in prison, call the police. Everybody's got a tattoo on their neck now. You got to have no tattoos if you really want to be a weirdo now. If you're trying to be a weirdo, you got to get rid of all the tattoos. Oh.
Text 19.
Text 19. We never tire of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead.
That's important too, because you just said even if you get something, eventually it may wear out.
Sure.
But the proof that these pastimes are spiritual, transcendental, is that these great sages never tire of hearing them.
They're ever fresh.
They're ever fresh.
They're ever fresh. Matter of fact, the more you hear it, the deeper you get into it. It starts to blossom. It starts to unfold. Anybody who says, well, I know this story, tell me another story. Krishna stole the butter. I know that story. Tell me another story. You hear these things again and again and again and again, and you go deeper into them. Where are we at?
Halfway through text 19.
Okay,
Start it again.
We never tire of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is glorified by hymns and prayers. Those who have developed a taste for transcendental relationships with him relish hearing these pastimes at every moment.
Yeah. So what are we going to develop a taste for in life? This was the taste of these sages. This is what they relished. And it's proof that it's an internal thing, because it's all related to the connection of the self with the supreme self, which are both situated within the heart.
It's interesting, even the concept of meditation, if you trace it back, it's not just a voidness. It's interesting, like the word Zen, comes from the word dhyan. It's how it, did you know that?
I've heard that before.
It's how a Japanese person would say dhyan,
Mhm.
zan. That was me imitating a Japanese person saying dhyan. But that's what it comes from. And the idea of meditation is not that you empty your mind, but that your mind is focused on a form,
Yeah.
an ishta, the way you conceive divinity. Now, of course,
A spiritual object.
a spiritual object,
Yeah.
a spiritual object. Even Buddhism originally had forms that they were meditating on, the forms of Buddha.
Right.
But when you study the Bhagavatam, you realize it's not we're trying to empty our mind. We're actually focusing on a form.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the object of the meditation. It's the object of our japa as well. But even if you read in Yoga Mala or some of these yoga books, they say these poses are meant to be done while meditating on your ishta. Ishta means your perception of divinity.
Mm-hmm.
Thought that was interesting. What do you think about that, Kaustubha?
I think it's very interesting, and I think that Mara is queuing up the
song.
Although
Kind of
she's
struggling to cue up a song, Mara. Then
then we can keep reading.
What do they teach you in that school? What was the name of that school, man? Emma Willard. Okay. We never, all girls school. We never tire of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is glorified by hymns and prayers. Those who have developed the taste for transcendental relationships with him relish hearing of his pastimes at every moment. That is the difference. I'm going to read the purport a little. There is a great difference between mundane stories, fiction, or history, and the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. The histories of the whole universe contain references to pastimes of incarnations of the Lord. The Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Puranas are histories of bygone ages, recorded in connection with the pastimes of the incarnations of the Lord, and therefore remain fresh even after repeated readings.
You were just saying that.
I had something I wanted to say, but I know it's time.
Save it for tomorrow.
I'm gonna save it for tomorrow. But it's got something to do about reading the Ramayana. Anyway, people listening on their podcast, everybody's going crazy. The party started. So we're just going to say goodbye right now. We'll check in tomorrow with our Srimad Bhagavatam. Thanks for joining us, Kaustubha.
Thank you.
There you go.